Hi everyone, welcome to Sprout. Today we're doing a volunteer training for parents and caregivers and really anyone in our community that wants to get involved with our programs here. So as you pull onto the farm, you'll notice that it's 27 beautiful acres. We have fields for our horses. You'll also notice an adaptive playground that we have for our siblings and friends and also students. We have our outdoor arena up there with a place to sit. And then over here along the left side of the barn, let's go along this way, we have places to park. So here we have our handicap parking at the end of the aisle. We have our student parking along the barn. And then down along the indoor arena, we have the place where you, our volunteers, will be parking. Those are marked by the yellow parking spots. So let's go into the barn. Sprout is the first barn that was designed to be ADA accessible for anyone with various abilities. So at our front doors, you'll notice that we allow only service dogs, and we ask that all of our volunteers and students enter through these doors, not through the aisles. Okay, so let's go on into the barn. Here we have all of our medical emergency supplies. Also, every exit is marked as a fire exit. And then you'll see all of our wonderful horses. In here we have our indoor arena. This was where we do most of our lessons. And our parents sit up here in a parent waiting area. Behind it, you'll see our classroom. That's where we have a bathroom. We also have a vending machine, and it's air conditioned and cooled. Over here, we have our motorized wheelchair lift. And our horses live in the stalls within the barn. We have 10 stalls. This entrance to the arena is the horse entrance. So we ask that only horses enter on this side of the arena and students enter by the front doors. We have 12-foot aisles. We have places for our horses to get prepared for their lessons. And over here is our tack room. This is where we keep all of the equipment that we use for our lessons. So our bridles right here, all of our saddles, they are numbered. As you can see, we have saddle number 6 here on saddle number 6. All of our girths are numbered as well and measured. We have our tack information in a binder in the tack room. And all of our bridles are also labeled. And there are grooming bags that are also labeled with the horse's name underneath. So, thanks for doing a quick tour of the barn, and we'll get on with their training. Thank you all for joining us for our virtual volunteer training. Before we move too far, there's a couple pieces of housekeeping business that we should go over. We do have a training packet that we would love for you to download and print to refer to after this training. And then also, if you have not received a link to register as a volunteer, we do need all volunteers, whether they are family members or caregivers, to register through that link. So please email volunteer@sproutcenter.org if you have not received the printed, the link to the handbook or the link to the registration. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here so that we can go through the training. Okay. So we're going to go back to the beginning. Welcome to the volunteer orientation. By the time we are done with this training, you will know what you need to know to be a volunteer at Sprout, just the basics, and also you'll know more about how to perform the duties of a sidewalker. So just a little bit about Sprout. We are a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2010, and we started operations in 2011. We are located in Aldie, Virginia, and we are a member of PATH International, which is the top affiliation that you'll notice. PATH stands for the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship. It is a standardizing and certifying agency for professional organizations and professionals that perform work for individuals with differing abilities with horses. Another organization that we are a part of is the American Hippotherapy Association. And that one is a focused medical-based organization for therapists to use the movement of the horse to support functional outcomes in their patients. So that is targeted therapy versus PATH International is adaptive riding, carriage driving, and equine assisted activities. The American Riding Instructors Association is another agency that we are a partner with. All of our instructors are certified through that because we do provide community lessons. So all of our instructors are certified to teach traditional riding as well as adaptive riding. In addition, we have a gold seal of transparency through GuideStar. GuideStar looks at the governance and financials of nonprofits, and we have a gold seal for that. We are also a guardian organization through the EQUIS Foundation, which means that we hold ourselves to the highest standards of horse care and animal husbandry. And last but not least, locally, we are a member of the Loudoun Chamber of Commerce and the Middleburg Business and Professionals Association. So one of the most important things for me, I had the opportunity to be a part of Sprout from the very beginning, is that we all start with why. And the cool thing about this family, this organization, is that we all come with different whys. So I challenge you to think about your why right now. Why are you here? Is it because you care about a student? Is it because you love to work with horses or you enjoy being outside? Whatever your why is that brings you here, it is valued by our staff and by our organization. Just to give you the reason why Sprout exists though, we exist to serve your neighbors, your friends, and your family members because we believe that all people are dignified, that we should respect them, and that they deserve a life that is full of love and opportunities. So we choose to use our passion, our talents, and our energy for that purpose. So many of us here have a passion for horses, and we care about our community. So we are here to blend those so that we can support one another to be our best selves. The mission of Sprout is to provide equine assisted activities and therapies. And that is just a catch-all term for things that you can do with horses to support people. We also use our farm for recreation, learning, socialization, and therapy. Our vision is to provide hope, healing, empowerment, and recovery through partnerships with horses. And partnerships is a key term there because our horses are not working for us, they are working with us. The values that we have as an organization start with professionalism. As you saw in the last slide, we professionally associate with many organizations, and we believe that to be able to serve well, we have to be also well credentialed and well respected in our work. So professional. Also, our horses are professional. They're well educated. Most of them come from show backgrounds, competition backgrounds, so they know what they're doing before they start to serve our students. The next is accessibility. We were one of the first organizations or barns in Virginia to be built from the ground up as an ADA accessible facility. That means a lot to us because we want people to be able to have the opportunity to access the things that we offer, the horses. So that means that if a student is in a wheelchair and needs a lift, we have a lift. We have ramps. We have accessible footing. And we also make our services accessible financially, because we believe that it's worth nothing if people can't come, if they can't financially support receiving the service. So accessibility is the second. Quality is the third. So we respect the people that we serve, and therefore we want to give them the best of ourselves, not the rest of ourselves. So we're going to put our best foot forward every day. We're going to make sure things are clean, that they're well organized, and that they operate in a high quality manner. The fourth is innovation. That was a new one that we added this year. That means that we will serve no matter what. We will figure out a way to make things work. We have supported clients that never thought they would be able to ride. And our goal is to adapt and to overcome when we have challenges through innovation. And then the last one is selfless service. And that means that we are not here to get a pat on the back. We are not here to make ourselves look good or anything like that. We are here because we believe in the people that we serve. It's really not about us at all. It's all about our clients and how we can support them. So selfless service. The different programs that we offer are continually growing and changing, but the biggest program that we have is something called therapeutic riding, also known as adaptive riding. And we serve about 80 people a week in that program. What therapeutic riding or adaptive riding is it is similar to special education, where we have a subject or a skill. In this case, it's riding. And we have a certified professional that is able to adapt the instruction of that skill to the learner's needs. So in adaptive riding, we will change tack. We will change the way that we teach. We will change the amount of support that a student receives. But the end goal is to be an independent rider. Same thing with therapeutic carriage driving. So the only thing that is different is that the outcome is driving a carriage versus the outcome in riding is riding a horse. So through adaptive carriage driving, our instructor, Miss Anna, will work through where the student is at, what are their needs, what are their abilities, and adjust her teaching accordingly so that they can learn how to drive a carriage, hopefully one day on their own. The third area of programming is equine supported therapy. So that is physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy with a credentialed therapist, a medical therapist, and it is a medical and clinical based intervention that supports the functional goals of the student. Sitting on the horse, the movement of the horse supports many functional outcomes. For example, neuromuscular re-education. When we sit on the horse's pelvis moves in a three-dimensional movement that helps rewire or better wire the brain and the muscles so that a student is able to have cadenced, well-planned movement that they would be able to reconfigure off the horse. That is done by a physical therapist. Those clients are not learning how to turn a horse or how to perform skills, but it is a program that can lead into learning how to ride a horse independently. The goal in equine supported therapies is to produce a functional or life-based outcome. And then the last grouping for our programs is community services. Most of the time, those are unmounted recreational or educational services that we provide through camps, through field trips, through days of service and programming like that, that help us stay involved with our community and serving the people within it. our staff. We have an amazing group of people involved with Sprout, and that is our staff is constantly growing. So we have myself, I am the executive director of the organization. We have Anna Koopman, she is the operations director. So she's in charge of all of the facility and overall thoughts behind the horses and their care and the operations and service delivery. Mr. Tim, he is in charge of the philanthropy. He's our director of philanthropy. So he makes sure that we have the funds available to serve and subsidize the services that we offer. We also have Miss Nancy. She is our program coordinator. She works through scheduling, adding programs, working through placing students and things of that nature. And many of us wear many hats. So you'll see us in different areas. So you'll see Miss Nancy in the arena, you'll see Anna in the arena teaching, you'll see myself in the arena teaching, even though we have back office jobs as well. We have Mr. Mike. Mr. Mike is our barn manager. He deals with the day-to-day care of the horses. So he feeds horses, turns them out, works through all of their schedules and that kind of thing. We have Miss Kayla. She's in charge of community outreach. So making sure that we are working with our community, engaging with our community, bringing people in and sharing our story. And she also is in the arena teaching. We also have Miss Heather. Miss Heather is an instructor here at Sprout. She's certified for therapeutic riding and also traditional riding. Same thing with Miss Lacey. She's a therapeutic riding instructor and traditional riding instructor. We have Dr. Sue Schmeg. She is our physical therapist on staff. We have Pam McAfee. She is certified in therapeutic riding and also traditional riding. And then we have our wonderful volunteers that give so much that they're actually on staff. Miriam and Lynn, they are our office managers here at Sprout. We also have Kate Cunningham. She is our new occupational therapist, so we're working on getting a picture for her. Our horses. So we have 18 geldings, all different shapes and sizes, backgrounds, movement patterns to support our riders. So from left to right here, we have Duke, we have Sawyer, we have Lucky and Toasty, we have Cupcake and Peter, we have Cowboy, VIP, and Twizzler. Whoopsie. We have David, we have Buggy, we have Jack, Dancer, Freckles, Olaf, and Pippin, and we have two new horses that we don't have pictures of yet, Salsa and Mr. Big. Volunteer qualifications. So volunteers for our insurance have to be a minimum of 14 years of age. We like our volunteers to commit to a full session because students get used to them. And so we want them to be able to rely on the people that are supporting them in their lessons. We also need our volunteers to meet the physical requirements of the job. So that is walking on uneven terrain, running on and off, things like that, having the strength to hold a rider up or pull a rider off in an emergency dismount. We need our volunteers to want to learn about horses and the way that we do things here at Sprout. And also we need a team player, someone who is able to communicate diplomatically and enthusiastically. And because this is a barn, there's a lot of wood and hay and no smoking. We want our volunteers to be good role models. So that means no smoking, drug use, anything like that. We're trying to lift each other up. The goals for volunteers are pretty simple. It's to keep our riders safe, to help them have a good time, and to support them to be as successful as they are able. We have a bunch of guidelines and policies. We're going to go through them next. As we work through all of these rules, please remember that there are really only 3 rules. 1 is do the right thing. 2 is do the best you can. And 3 is always show people that you care. So as we work through all of these rules, please know that it all boils down to that. So as we said, no smoking on the premises. We don't allow dogs unless they are service dogs. The dogs that come are here to work. Please make any schedule changes, or if you're trying to bring friends, please let our general email address know about that prior to you doing that. So the email for that is info@sproutcenter.org. Lessons are held rain or shine. We have an indoor arena, so that is positive in those situations. Please let us know if you're going to be absent in advance. Please park in the volunteer parking areas. Please do not give riders gifts, nor please do not allow yourself to be one-on-one with a rider. We ask that volunteers all report their hours of service. Even if you don't need the hours, we as an organization need the hours because it shows the community support for Sprout. So last year, our volunteers gave over $300,000 worth of time in service to the organization. Every hour counts as about a $24 donation to the organization. So please claim your hours. And please do not lead a horse until you have gone through horse leader training. Background checks. All individuals that serve at Sprout that are over the age of 18 receive background checks prior to their service. And then on a frequent basis, about every 2 years when circumstances require. As far as court-ordered community service goes, we do support people that are looking for court-ordered community service, but only for certain offenses. We have paperwork that should be completed before we accept a person that is needing to perform court-ordered community service so that we can review the offense and see if it is something that we are able to support and how we would place you. As far as confidentiality goes, our riders are a part of our community, and therefore it is our job to protect their privacy when they are here. You will receive all the information that you need to know about the riders and nothing else. You may or may not end up knowing the student's diagnosis. You may or may not know if they have a diagnosis. We ask that you please keep our students' names private. If you would like to share a story about something that has happened at Sprout during a time when you are here, please use generalizations, meaning, I was working at Sprout and you'll never believe it. The student that I served who had never walked got off of the horse and walked down the barn aisle. That story is still powerful, but please save the name. Do not share the name of the student so that they can tell their own story. As far as social media goes, this kind of follows the trend of keeping people's information private. So if you would like to share about Sprout through social media or through any type of media, please contact me first, Brooke Waldron, brooke.waldron@sproutcenter.org. That includes print articles, any type of pictures, so that we can make sure that the people within them have agreed to have their pictures shared, and also that the pictures meet the standards that we have at Sprout. As far as inclement weather goes, we operate unless the temperature drops below 25 or reaches above 103 real feel. Typically, we are on if we're planning on lessons. If winds are exceeding 25 miles an hour, horses start to get spooky, that will cause us to have to cancel lessons. Severe rain, snow, melting snow from the roof. Those are all things that might cause us to have to cancel lessons. But as you can see on this slide, we will let you know at certain increments through the day, because sometimes predictions don't occur. So for our morning lessons, we will cancel those. Any morning lessons go until 12 p.m. We will cancel those by 8 a.m. We will cancel our afternoon lessons. Afternoon lessons usually begin at 2. We'll cancel those by 12 noon. And then our evening lessons, we'll cancel those by 3. You will always know in advance if Sprout is canceled. But if the situation is treacherous in your area, if the conditions are treacherous, please choose not to come and let us know. We would never want to put you in danger. As far as occurrences go, as you can see, this is a picture of the Sprout farm. We have a lot of land, 27 acres. That's a lot of land to maintain and take care of. And so if you notice an unsafe condition, please report it to us ASAP. If you trip on a branch on a trail and we don't hear about it, and then the next volunteer behind you trips on the same branch but breaks their leg, that is an issue that we could have prevented. So we want to prevent it. Please let us know if you see something that is unsafe, and a staff member will deal with it as soon as possible. If you have a medical condition, please let us know before you volunteer at Sprout, because we are going to ask you to do certain physical things that might be beyond what you are able to do. And we want to make sure that we only ask things that you are comfortable doing. So please let us know about any medical needs that you have. And please bring any medications that you might need, whether they're an EpiPen for allergies, bring that to the barn. As far as our horses go, our horses are here to work and they should be respected. We do not allow volunteers to ride horses unless they are in scheduled lessons. We do offer lessons to our volunteers when possible, but those have to be signed up for, and they are paid lessons. We also ask that the horses are always aware of you before you walk up to them. Please do not walk into a stall with a horse without knowing who the horse is and if you have the authority to walk into its stall. Please try not to hand feed the horses, and always approach a horse from their left side rather than in front or behind them. Horses keep themselves safe in 3 ways. They run, they bite, or they kick. So try to stay away from the front end of the horse and from the back end of the horse, and that is going to help you stay safe. As far as farm equipment goes, we have a Kubota, we have a mower, and we have a tractor. And sometimes our volunteers help us around the farm with some tasks that require farm equipment. If you are using farm equipment, you must have a driver's license. Always be cautious when using the equipment. And if you are operating equipment in a field, make sure all gates are closed behind you. You should have a secondary person that helps open and close the gates, and that you always drive slowly near the horses. If you are on a piece of equipment and a horse and rider are near you, they have the right of way, and that may cause you to have to turn off your equipment if the horse is nervous about it. As far as apparel goes for volunteers, this is one of our wonderful volunteers. As you can see, she is, whoopsie, wearing a Sprout logo shirt. We have lots of them, and we would love for you to have one. They're usually for sale for around $10. So anything with sleeves, we ask that you are very modest in your dress as a role model. So something with sleeves is typically good. Pants are preferred because we do go outside and sometimes poison ivy is growing, and we want to make sure your legs stay protected. And boots when possible. Boots are nice because they keep sand from the arena out from rubbing on your leg and being inside your shoe. So some high boots are great, but if you are more comfortable in sneakers, that's fine, as long as the shoes are closed-toed. Please no dangling jewelry or revealing clothing. Dangling jewelry can get pulled and is unsafe, and revealing clothing makes it challenging for our riders. As far as cell phones go, we put this picture on this slide because we're really here to connect with the people that are here. We want you to be here when you arrive in the barn. And so we ask that you put your cell phone away. If that means being in your pocket, great. If that means being on the ledge by the front of the barn, great. If you are serving in a lesson, please do not ever answer your phone. if you have your hands on a rider. If you do receive a phone call, please ask to be excused from the arena or from the lesson, and you can take the call and then return once you are done. But no calls and no texts when you are working with riders. As far as risk management goes, once you have gone through all the risks, you are responsible for knowing them, for also knowing the safety rules, where we go when there's a fire, what to do with a loose horse, what to do in a storm situation. As far as our first aid kits and fire extinguishers, first aid kits, I'm actually at the front door right now. First aid kits are located by the front door of the barn. We also have an AED, and on the first aid kit, we have a emergency information that is posted of what you should say if and when you were to ever need to call 911. In all emergencies, the instructor is responsible for incident management and will apply the first aid as needed. Our instructors are CPR and first aid trained, certified. No person should enter or leave the arena unless the instructor has told you to do so. If you are calling 911, please plan to tell the dispatcher the center location, what happened, and any information about the person's condition, including asking the dispatcher to have any emergency vehicles turn off lights and sirens as they spook horses. And then, as we said, all of the emergency kits are posted across the aisle from the classroom. In addition, we also have a fire extinguishers at all exits. Termination policy. We serve a lot of people at Sprout, and our goal is to make their time fun, enjoyable, safe, and that we have a community that respects one another and that we are here for each other. So the reason why we've created these rules is to observe that idea, to be a community together. So we do reserve the right to determine if it's in the best interest of Sprout and the volunteer to terminate volunteering if those rules cannot be respected. Okay, that's it. Thanks, guys.
In this next section, we're going to go over some information you need to know about volunteering in lessons. Your student has a day and time that they've been assigned to ride for the full session. So you can expect each week before your student's lesson to get a weekly communication from their instructor and the volunteer schedule for the day. If you're ever unable to be at your student's session, please let Sprout staff know as soon as possible. We love to help our Sprout volunteers learn, so if you ever have any questions, please feel free to always ask a staff member or another volunteer. We have lots of volunteer continuing education opportunities that are offered throughout the year and would love to have you take part in those if those are something you're interested in. So next we're going to cover some information on how to assist your rider in a lesson. This training covers the information that you need to know to sidewalk with your rider. As a sidewalker, your main responsibility is supporting and assisting the rider. The horse leader is there to support and manage the horse in the session. We assign riders to volunteer teams based on their specific needs. So your rider may have a full team with a leader and 2 sidewalkers, a leader and sidewalker only, a leader or a spotter only, or they may be totally independent. When you're sidewalking, you'll stand on either side of the horse, positioned at the rider's knee. This positioning is important as it's the best possible place for you to be able to assist your rider as needed, and it's also the safest position to be in when you're walking around the horse. If your student only has one sidewalker, you should position yourself on your student's weaker side. If there's no weaker side, you'll just position yourself on the opposite side as the leader. That way there's a person on each side of the rider. For mounting or getting on the horse, the instructor will lead the mount and the sidewalkers will assist as needed. Depending on your rider's needs, they may mount from the mounting block, the ramp, the platform, or the wheelchair lift. The near side sidewalker, or the sidewalker that's on the left side of the horse, is there to help the rider and instructor if they need it during the mounting process. The offside sidewalker, or the sidewalker on the opposite right side of the horse, helps stabilize the saddle and helps the rider find their balance and sit comfortably and safely on the horse. In the following video clip, we'll show you the mounting process and the different sidewalker roles and responsibilities during that process.
When you arrive at the barn, you'll wait in the designated waiting area until your instructor signals that it's okay for you to go ahead and come on into the ring. So when it's time for that, go ahead and come over to the gate. You'll put on some hand sanitizer. As you enter the arena, parents and caregivers, you're going to want to stay slightly in front of your student. That's to make sure that we have a safe approach when we're approaching our horse. When you're coming up and closing the gate behind you. Thank you very much, Lily. So when you're coming up towards your horse, we're going to approach our horse at the shoulder. We'll get any reins or stirrups situated. That'll be all up to what your instructor asks you to do. For the mount, if there is one sidewalker, they'll be positioned on the off side of the horse. That's going to be on the opposite side of the mount. In that case, the instructor will be the person that is assisting the student on the left side, which is the side we get on from. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. Go ahead and walk up to the top there. Okay. So what Brooke is doing on the off side is she is counterweighting that stirrup. She's putting her hand in, she's putting some weight into the stirrup, so as Lindley swings up and over, the saddle doesn't shift. You also saw there that she helped catch Lindley's right leg as it came up and over the saddle. That way, she's basically there to help make sure that Lindley stays balanced as she comes up and over and that our leg doesn't actually bump the horse on the back side. So once our student is on, we're going to make any adjustments of stirrups, girths, we'll make all of that. We'll do all of those checks. And then we'll remove the block from the arena and be ready to move forward with the lesson.
We talk through the stirrup place.
So if your student has two sidewalkers, we'll have one person positioned on the other side. The other sidewalker will be to the right of the mounting block, and they're there just to help with any extra assistance that we need during the mounting process. So we'll demonstrate that for you. Lindley, go ahead and walk up your block here. Good, you're gonna go ahead and pick up your reins, left foot in your stirrup, swing up and over. Go.
And during that time, the volunteer will need to take a step back if needed, if the person's leg is swinging over. So just be aware of the swinging leg.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
There are several types of support holds that your instructor may have you use in order to support the student during the ride. We'll show you some of these holds and how to do them in the following video clip.
So our first hold that we're going to show you is called an arm over thigh. So this is offering a pretty high level of assistance. It's helping the rider really kind of stay very stable and very grounded in the saddle. So what Brooke and I are going to do an arm over thigh, we're going to use our inside arm, so the arm that's closer to the horse. We're going to bring it over Lindley's thigh, right, providing a certain amount of decent amount of pressure, not pushing, but just there over her thigh. And then we're using our hands, and you can grab the saddle flap with your fingers here. And that's how you're going to be able to stabilize. Some people like to put their fingers inside the flap, and some people like to come around. It's kind of the size of your hand and what's most comfortable for you. One thing we want to watch for with arm over thigh, and actually I can see that Brooke and I have a difference here when I'm looking across, is that our hold is at the same height. So if Brooke is way up here and I'm way down here, that's not providing even input for Lindley, and it might actually make it so she starts to lean to one side or the other. So checking in, if you notice your rider starting to lean, checking in and making sure that you and your other sidewalker are at the same height and with the same amount of pressure. Okay?
Also within the arm over thigh, we have variations. So if you have a rider that is leaning, you might want to reach your elbow up higher towards the point of their hip to keep them more balanced. Versus if you have a rider that's going to be doing 2-point, stand up in 2-point, that you come lower and bring your arm off a bit so that you allow that position to happen. So you can vary the placement of your forearm and the level of push based on what the rider is being asked to do.
Okay, so for our heel hold is a lower level of support. So what we're going to be doing with the heel hold is using our inside arm and bringing that back behind the rider's ankle or heel right here. What this does is it helps stabilize Lindley's lower leg. Here, so you can see I've got my hand turned where it's just right and her boot is fitting right into the palm of my hand here. What that does is stabilizes her lower leg, and it also provides a little bit of a buffer. So if I have a rider whose lower leg likes to swing back, I'm able to help kind of protect the horse's side and then also offer a little bit of support there for her to help her keep her lower leg nice and strong. So for example, you'll see heel holds a lot of times when we do things like 2-point position and posting. So Lindley, go ahead and show your 2-point position. Good. And as she went up there, we had to add a little bit of pressure on her heel to help her keep her lower leg in position. Now, if she started to lean forward and her lower leg came back, right, we're gonna have to up the pressure a little to help her keep that lower leg nice and steady and in that nice alignment with her hip. Good, go ahead and sit down. So the last hold that we're gonna show you is an arm over thigh plus an ankle hold. So this is probably the highest level of support that you're gonna be giving a rider because it combines the two holds you just saw, the arm over thigh with your forearm up over the rider's thigh, and then also a stabilizing hand behind or on their ankle to help them keep their lower leg in position. So some riders may have this hold for part of their lesson, some of them may have it for the entire lesson. And that's the thing with holds in general, is that there may be times where an instructor asks you to do a certain hold for certain skills, like maybe for trot we do this hold, but then for a walk we drop to just an arm over thigh. So as you can see with Brooke there on that side, forearm up over Lindley's thigh, stabilizing hand behind the ankle, and it's kind of a combination of those two.
Next, we're going to show you some information about how a rider should ideally be aligned and balanced in the saddle. When you're sidewalking, it's important to keep an eye on the rider's position and to make sure that they stay on balance. If your rider needs a major position adjustment during a lesson, please stop the horse and alert the instructor.
So a little bit about Lindley's position in the saddle. So we are looking for an alignment. We want her ear to be aligned with her shoulder, her hip, and her heel. So Lindley's got good alignment for us here. Her heels are slightly down in the stirrups and her toes are slightly up, and the ball of her foot, so the space right behind the toes, is resting on the pad of the stirrup here. All of our stirrups are safety stirrups, so this black rubber band basically helps prevent the rider's foot from slipping or getting caught in the stirrup, and it releases if the rider's foot starts to push through. So we need to make sure this black rubber band is always positioned towards the outside. So that's something to check, especially if you're a rider, if you do any sort of activity during the lesson where the rider takes their feet out of the stirrups and then maybe puts them back in, that you want to make sure that their foot is going back into the stirrup with that black rubber band on the outside. So when Lindley's sitting in the saddle, we want her to be sitting directly in the middle of the saddle, straight up and down. So one thing that we want to watch for, and when we talk about holds in a minute, this is going to come into play, is if she starts to lean, for example, if you're going to lean a little bit towards me, like, yeah, have bad posture for a second. Good, being aware of that and being able to help her correct that to sit up towards the center. There you go. And we'll show you how you can help prevent that sort of leaning with holds as well. So when Lindley's holding her reins, she's going to have it in the underside of her hand. Her thumb is going to be on top. It's going to be in between her 3 fingers, and then her pinky is going to be on the bottom here. So one way that sometimes it works for if your rider accidentally gets their hand flipped around, so sometimes we'll accidentally get here where our hand is turned over. One way that works is we can have our rider drop her reins, have them reach out with a flat palm, so reach out like that, good. Hands right over the reins, good. And then picking it up from there and helping them then position their pinky under. There you go. Good. She's got her thumbs on top, and that allows her elbow to fall down by her side. So it's kind of like if you're holding a tray of drinks out in front of you, that sort of feel of hands floating right above the saddle with your thumbs on top.
When you're sidewalking, one of your main roles is to help reinforce the instructor's instructions by repeating their request or prompting the rider. To minimize confusion over instructions, the sidewalker who's on the inside of the arena, so on the side of the rider that is closer to the center, will be the primary communicator with the rider when an instruction is given. Ultimately, our goal is that riders are as independent as possible. It's important to remember that when an instruction is given, we want to give the student enough time to process, so at least 5 seconds, if not more. And as far as prompts, there are different forms of prompts that we can give. Some are verbal and some are physical. We'll show demonstrations of some of these strategies in the following video.
So when you're helping a rider in a lesson, we have a couple different levels of prompting that you can use to help your rider accomplish tasks. So we're starting here with the most intense, or the most hands-on, which is actually called a hand over hand. So for that, we are going to actually use our hand up over Lindley's hand to complete a task. So for example, if we were going to ask Lindley or if Lindley's going to ask her horse to whoa, we would help her bring our hand over her hand, help her pull back on the instructor's instruction, and then bring her hands forward. Okay, so that's providing the max amount of guidance. And our goal, of course, is to have our riders complete things as independently as possible. So we're going to that if the rider really needs that level of assistance in order to complete the task, giving them every possible opportunity to do it with a lower level of assistance before we go to a hand over hand. Our level, like a step down from that, is going to be a hand tap. So that's basically, it's exactly what it sounds. So if we're going to say, okay, Lindley, get ready to whoa your horse. Get ready to whoa, giving a little tap to Lindley's hands to prompt her and remind her, okay, your hands need to kick into gear here, and then you're back there. And then away from physical prompts too, if your rider is more independent, you may go down to just a verbal prompt. So, okay, Lindley, pull back for whoa. Okay, and there she's able to do it without us having to add in that physical support. One other prompt that sometimes, especially this is mainly for a rider if they don't have a hold and you are able to have hands free, that demonstrating like a visual aid, like pull back for whoa, that might be helpful as well.
So just like when we drive a car, when we're working in the arena with other horses and riders, there are some general rules of the road that everyone follows. When passing another horse going the opposite direction, you want to pass left shoulder to left shoulder. When passing another horse going the same direction, the faster horse gets the rail, meaning that they have the right to stay out on the rail next to the wall. Riders going over a pole or a jump should alert others in the arena by calling pole. And if your rider needs a significant tack or position adjustment, they should come to the center of the arena as long as it's safe for you all to get there. When it's time to get off, our horses will halt at letter C facing letter M for the dismount. The instructor is in charge of leading the dismount, and as sidewalkers, you'll assist the instructor as needed. If you're on the near side, you'll assist the instructor if they ask you to do so. If you're on the off side, you'll help the rider remove their foot from the stirrup, cross the stirrups over, and help them bring their right leg up and over to get off. Some riders may assist with running up their stirrups or removing their reins at the end of their lesson. When your rider is done, please walk with them to exit the arena through the rider gate. In the next video, we'll show you the dismounting and post-lesson procedures.
When it's time for dismounting, we'll come and we'll halt our horse down at the end of the arena next to letter C facing letter M. That's how all our horses are trained to start and end the lesson, just so there's that consistency for them. All your sidewalkers will stay in the position that they are in. Horse leader will stay at the head of the horse. Okay, so we are going to first have Lindley drop her reins. She's going to put them forward on our horse's neck. That way they're out of the way when we go to do the dismount. Okay, first thing is after we've got our reins managed, we're going to have Lindley take her feet out of her stirrups. And depending on your rider, this might be something that they do by themselves, or they may need some of your support to do it. The next step, we're going to cross the stirrups up over the front of the saddle, and they kind of go up over the horse's neck. Again, this is something that some of our riders do independently, and some of them will need some of your assistance. We cross the stirrups up and over so that way they're totally out of the way when we go to dismount and no one gets accidentally hung up on one of these. Okay? So if your rider has two sidewalkers and there's a sidewalker on my side, that sidewalker will basically be in the same position they were for the mount, slightly behind my hip. And if the instructor mainly is the one who's going to lead the dismount, but if they need extra assistance, they'll tell you what they need you to do. The offside sidewalker, so where Brooke is standing on the other side, you're going to help Lindley bring her right leg up and over and help her clear this cantle if she needs it. Okay, so Lindley, you're going to lean forward, you're going to look at your mom. Good, right leg up and over. Good. I know you don't need this much help, but I'm helping you. There you go, and slide down. Okay, and then right after, your student may work on running up their stirrups or taking off their reins. That's all up to the instructor and what you guys are working on in the lesson. And if the student if you guys are changing sides or anything, just making sure that the student goes around the front of the horse, around the horse's neck. So if Lindley was going to do her stirrup on the other side, she'd go all the way around, meet Brooke on the other side, and do her stirrup there. Push up, and then roll under. Good. You can see anything. Come around the front. There you go. Same thing here. Okay, so after the lesson is done, we'll give our horse a pat. We'll thank our team for all their help, and you will go ahead and escort your rider out towards the rider gate. So all of our riders are always going to come in and out of this gate. The other gate is for horses exclusively. Sanitize your hands on the way out, and then we will.
Next, we're going to cover emergency preparedness and different emergency procedures at Sprout. All Sprout staff are CPR and first aid certified, and we obeyed all efforts to prevent and prepare for emergency situations if they were to occur. We ask that everyone take universal precautions such as wearing personal protective equipment if you're likely to be in contact with bodily fluids, washing your hands often, and using masks. In the event of an emergency, the Sprout staff will give instructions. Cell phones may be used as emergency phones to call 911, but Sprout also has a landline phone in the upstairs office. 911 call informations, including directions to the farm and instructions for the dispatcher, are posted in the first aid kit. Sprout's first aid kit and AED are located at the main entrance to the barn. Emergency dismount. So Sprout's horses are all wonderful, but we are aware that emergency situations can happen when we're riding. In the event that an emergency dismount from a horse is needed, the goal is to get the rider safely off and away from the horse. We'll go over 2 methods of emergency dismounting and how to do them in the next video.
Okay, so a quick thing on emergency dismount. So in an emergency situation, anyone on the team has the right at any point to call an emergency dismount. If there's a situation where you feel the rider's getting unbalanced past a point you can control, if the horse leader feels like the horse is getting uncomfortable, if the instructor feels like the situation for whatever reason is not safe, or something happens suddenly that you need to get your student off and away from the horse, that is when we would use an emergency dismount. So the goal ultimately in an emergency dismount, get the student clear of the horse, get them away from the horse as quickly as possible, and then get the horse out of the situation. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick version of this. And the thing with emergency dismounts to just keep in mind is in a true emergency, speed is the key. Speed and efficiency is the key. So with a rider that's a little bit smaller, it may be easier to kind of lift them off more. With a rider that may be a little bit taller or bigger, that you may end up kind of stumbling back as you pull them off. And that's not at all uncommon. I think sometimes when we do these, they look kind of very rehearsed because right now we're not dealing with a real horse, but in a real situation, off the horse and away is the thing that you're wanting to do. So first thing, we would have Lindley drop her reins. So let go of your reins, Lindley. Okay, we would take her feet out of the stirrups. We would toss them over the front of the saddle. Good. Then Brooke, being the person on the inside, is going to grab and pull Lindley off the horse. Okay. Yep. And they are going to run to safety, move themselves away from the horse towards the center of the arena. Now, the reason we always have the inside sidewalker, when at all possible, we want the inside sidewalker to be the person that gets the rider off the horse, and that is because we want to go to the clear space in the arena instead of being next to the wall. So if you're the offside sidewalker, or if you're the near side sidewalker on this side, in my case, and your rider has come up towards the inside, they've gone to safety, the horse will move away, and that'll give you an opening to be able to go either up the front or the back, depending on where the horse has gone to get out as well. Can we go through? So another option for emergency dismount situations, and this may be for a rider that's taller or potentially has tighter hip flexors, it's all kind of, your instructor will tell you what type of emergency dismount you guys will typically do in if an emergency situation were to arise. Another solution, another way to do it is where we're going to have Lily bring her leg up over the horse's neck, and then she'll come off towards Brooke, facing Brooke. So we'll go through the same start to the procedure. So drop your reins, good, feet out of the stirrups, cross them over. Okay, so as the offside person, there, bringing legs up and over, and then jumping down. So she comes off there facing Brooke, and Brooke is able to bring her forward and away from the horse.
Like I said earlier, our horses are wonderful, but they are still horses, so there is the chance that they could do something called spooking, which is basically having a physical reaction to a scary object or stimulus. If a horse spooks, sidewalkers should immediately assume an arm over thigh support hold. Stay with the rider if possible and keep your supportive hold while you listen for directions from the instructor. The horse leader will make all attempts to stop and calm the horse. If a horse becomes loose in the arena or in the barn, it's important to remember not to chase them. They are prey animals, so naturally, if they feel threatened by something chasing them, they will just run faster. Sprout staff member will decide who is the best person to approach the horse in the situation. If you're in a lesson with your student when there's a loose horse, please secure your rider with an arm over thigh hold and make all attempts to calm them. Your instructor will tell you what to do next based on the situation. If a horse is loose in the barn, announce "loose horse" to alert others in the barn of the situation. Next, we're going to go over emergency preparedness as it relates to weather activities. In the event of a storm, the Sprout staff will assess whether we're able to continue to offer services, and if a cancellation is needed, we'll let you know as soon as possible. We will have everyone come inside, close all the barn doors and windows, secure the horses, and all meet in the barn or in the classroom for a head count. In the event of a fire, everyone should exit the barn immediately. If you're in a lesson at a time of a fire, you will evacuate out the back door with your rider and your team. Everyone should meet at the small pony paddock near Field 1 for a head count.
Okay, everyone. So guess what? You have completed the virtual volunteer sidewalker training. We hope that it was educational and informative, and that you feel confident to try your hand at sidewalking. As always, we believe that learning is never done. So when you come for your first session, we will make sure that we go over all of the holds with you, that we answer any questions with you. We'll try to pair you with a mentor that has been here longer, so that you have someone who you can learn from and have as your support person. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Thank you so much for caring about this mission. We look forward to having you join us in it and walking on together. So thanks for being a great asset to Sprout, and we look forward to seeing you in the barn soon. Bye.